Hi there guys, welcome to the History Teacher. You find me today in 1558, back with Elizabeth on her ascent to the throne. We've been looking at some of the problems she's had when she became queen, and we're going to look today at some of the challenges she faced at home. One of the big problems she had when she inherited the throne was the crown was basically broke. They had absolutely no money. There was a couple of reasons for this. The first one was that the crown was actually in debt to the tune of £300,000. That's a pretty significant sum today, and it was a huge sum in 1558. The big problem with that is that she only had £286,667 coming in. So there's no way she can pay that debt off. You might be asking yourself, well, how could a country owe debt? Basically, what happens is when a country needs extra money to keep itself going, it goes to a foreign moneylender. Today, it would usually be the World Bank, but in those days, Antwerp in Belgium was the main core place that you would borrow money. So her predecessors, her sister Mary, her brother Edward, and her father Henry had all borrowed money from these Antwerp dealers. And the problem was they lent money at 14%. So they were basically the equivalent of a payday loan. To help deal with this problem, Mary had tried to sell off some of the crown's land to try and pay for the debts, and she'd sold off quite a significant sum. So the actual crown's income was falling. But you might be asking yourself, what on earth does she want money for? There's no street cleaning, there's no NHS, there's none of that. So what does the crown have to actually pay out for? This is all about remaining secure in the throne. Elizabeth wants to be comparable to the other kings and queens of Europe. Without a significant sum of money, without huge wealth, she looks like a poor cousin. She also needs it to reward her loyal followers and to make sure that they stay loyal to her. Another big problem is that since the 1540s, the crown had basically been devaluing the coins by reducing the silver and gold content within the coins. This was all basically to keep paying for wars against France and Scotland. This results in inflation, which if you've done Nazi Germany, you will know that hyperinflation is when the money shoots through the roof and becomes worth nothing. Well, inflation is kind of a scaled down model of that. Basically, it meant that the price of goods was going up. It cost more to buy a loaf of bread. And that's not a biggie if a loaf of bread's 50p, but if a loaf of bread becomes £10, that becomes an issue. Henry VIII had borrowed significant sums to help fund his lifestyle. He had jousts and parties, and particularly famous the Field of the Cloth of Gold, which cost an astronomical sum to set up. Henry had sold off the lands that belonged to the crown to help pay for his lavish lifestyle and his wars. Edward continued to sell off land, and Mary also continued to sell off land. So you ended up with a situation where the crown is in real trouble. Elizabeth's got a couple of ways she can deal with this. Okay, to know this, you need to know where the money comes from for the crown. The crown could get hold of money by taxing people, putting in special additional taxes, often known as custom duties, but these have to be agreed by Parliament. Sometimes they can borrow off of other countries. Sometimes those loans are forced, meaning that they were compulsory and never repaid. And they could also use usual taxes from customs, trading, selling items. Rents and income from their own lands were also an important source of income. So what are the options facing Elizabeth? Well, she could raise taxes to boost the crown's income, so she could call Parliament, ask them if she can put up some extra taxes, but the big problem with that is if she does that, there is a possibility that people will revolt. As I said to you earlier, the prices are already rising. They don't want to pay more tax. Or she could improve the quality of the money by increasing the gold and silver content in the coins. So in 1560, Thomas Gresham, who was the crown's financial advisor, suggested this to William Cecil. But Elizabeth wasn't keen on it. Any new coinage would have to be traded alongside existing coinage, and people would struggle to get to know the new coinage. She's trying to keep the people happy. Remember, she's in a kind of dodgy, precarious position, and she wants to make sure that the people are happy, her nobles are happy, everyone's happy with her. So what did Elizabeth actually do? Well, she didn't raise taxes because she was worried about the effect of it. So instead, she hoarded all the money she could get hold of. She cut the household expenses by half, spending much less on feasts, much less on servants, much less on her court, and also much less on her own clothes. She continued to sell off crown lands and raised £120,000 this way. And by 1574, the crown was now out of debt for the first time since 1558. However, although Elizabeth managed this all quite carefully, it didn't really help the poorer people. They did create money from Parliament, with many landowners acting as Lord Lieutenants and Justices of the Peace were pocketing some of the proceeds from before the rest being sent to the Crown. And this meant that ordinary people had to face an even heavier burden than the rich. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, please stick them in below. If you want to contact me, my Twitter and email are in the description. See you next time.